Welcome to Sagenheim and a new episode of the Thidrekssaga. If Beetlerulf and Thetleif's journey, combat in Thidrekssaga, and the sounding of a horn seem familiar, then you are ready for more from days of old. They sprang onto their horses and rode to Sigurd's dwelling. They found there a house dug into the ground, and two women came to meet them. One was Sigurd's wife, and the other their daughter. Sigurd's daughter was so strong that there were few men who were stronger. And she saw now that the man was accompanying her father. She thought that this man had certainly been fighting with him, and she also suspected that her father had been defeated because she saw his armor was badly scratched. And when they got off their horses, she grabbed Thetleif with both hands and threw him immediately to the ground and struck him so hard with a fist in the neck that she thought his neck bone would be broken apart. When this happened, Thetleif thought it a great shame that a woman should have thrown him to the ground and done him such shame and dishonor. He put one of his hands around her arm and the other around her throat so tightly that water flew from both her eyes, and he tightened his hands so much that blood sprang from each of his nails. And she called out and asked him for a truce, and said that she wishes to settle with him. And Thetleif saw that there was no fame to be gained from killing a woman, even though she had attacked him harshly, and he thought he could certainly give her the worst lot if he wished to. Each let go of the other, and they all went in together. The house was well equipped with good furnishings, and he was shown good hospitality there that night. And they now drank good wine, and Sigurd's daughter served them well and poured the wine courteously. She was excellent in appearance in all ways, no less than she was strong. She looked at him with pleasure, and he noticed it. And when she gave him the drinking goblet, he grasped her fingers along with it and squeezed them a little. And she also noticed it clearly. And when she poured him wine another time, she pressed his foot with hers. And each had good thoughts of the other, and they knew it of each other. When night had come, Thetleif and Sigurd went to bed. And Thetleif had good bedding that night, and he fell asleep immediately as soon as he got into bed. In the middle of the night, Sigurd's daughter came to Thetleif and climbed into his bed and lay next to him. He awoke and silently made room for her next to him. Sigurd's daughter did not come to him for any other reason than to seek a complete reconciliation between them. She thought that she had attacked him too quickly that evening, and she knew that he might dislike it if she left things as they were. She knew that the person who had the greater guilt had to offer compensation if the fault was not all too great. But what should she compensate with? And those who are sitting around here and listening to this story, and to turn things to the evil side, will think that she offered herself. No, that was far from what happened. She went there to amuse herself with fair fables and other courteous conversation, which she could carry on better than most other maidens, and also because she knew that fleas sought one less when two were in one bed rather than one alone. And they talked about many things between them, and each told the other what he was most eager to hear. and she now reduced his troubles with her wisdom. And thus, she brought about the reconciliation alone, and needed no one else, since these two arrived at their own reconciliation between them. Often the judgment of 12 men is overturned, but this one was not overturned. She had foreseen all of this because she was both wise and deep of counsel. And now that she knew that he was the son of Beetewulf, she climbed out of the bed and went to where her father was sleeping. He was sleeping deeply because he had drunk much wine, and she took from his bag the victory stone, which she had put there that evening when he had come home. And then she returned to the bed and gave Thetleif the stone, and they lay there almost until dawn. When it began to get light, Sigurd's daughter got up and went away. Sigurd came to Thetleif and asked him to get up and to show him all of his gold and silver. When the breakfast time arrived, they went to the table and, when they had eaten, they took their horses and set out to test themselves to the fullest. And now they came to the castle and got off their horses. They came together and fought furiously for a long time. But before they quit, Sigurd became tired, and he had received 3 wounds. And now he gave up his sword and did not wish to fight any longer. And Thetleif accepted this happily. Now each went to his horse, and before they mounted, Thetleif told him his name and his family. And Sigurd became very happy and welcomed him warmly, and they rode back to the Earth House, and Sigurd invited him to stay as long as he liked. And Sigurd spoke. "Your father would not have advised you to hide your name from me." And Thetleif answered, "My father forbade me to fight with you, but I wanted to test myself nonetheless." And Sigurd spoke. "Because you are the first man who has defeated me in single combat, and we have become good friends and comrades just like your father and me, I wish to give you my daughter, and along with her as much gold and silver as you wish to accept." And Thetleif accepted this gladly. Sigurd now went and asked her what answer she would give if Thetleif were to ask for her hand. And she answered, "I am very much amazed that you wish to give me to the man who has given you such wounds and such searing pain in your fight. I have vowed, however, never to be given to any man unless he be your equal in valor. Now if Thetleif is such a great warrior and a good man, then I shall gladly accept this choice." And Sigurd answered, "Thetleif is a much greater fighter than I, and he has much more valor than I can tell. Accept my thanks, daughter, that you accept good advice and rely on my choice. Let me have your hand that you will hold our agreement." And she answered, "I will keep my word. Be careful that you keep everything you have promised." And she took her father's hand in hers. Sigurd went to Thetleif and told him everything she had said and that she would accept his proposal. And then Thetleif answered, "Thanks for what you have done and for your honorable offer. You have brought my case forward very well with her, as unpromising as it was, and I will gladly accept the offer, and I am very pleased with it. But now I wish to ride south to meet the Earl, my maternal grandfather, first of all, and when I return home from there, I will come here to meet you, and I shall take your daughter home with me." And Sigurd answered, "I want everything to take place as you wish, and I want you to travel soon, so that you can return sooner." And Thetleif rode away, and Sigurd gave him 10 marks of gold, and he already had 20 marks. Sigurd turned to him, and took his leave from him, as he departed, and his daughter did the same, but the less warmly than she wished, so that others would not become aware of their agreement, and he felt the same way about leaving her. Thetleif now rode on his way, as he had planned. It was a long way, both inhabited and uninhabited. And when he came south into Saxland, he met a man on his way. He greeted the man, and each asked the other the news, and where they were going. And the man said that he had come from the south out of Amlungland, and was traveling north to Hunaland. And Thetleif asked, "Have you heard of the man who is called Thidrek, the son of King Thidrek of Bern? Do you know anything about what kind of man he is, and whether he is at home in Bern?" And the man answered him, "I know Thidrek, the son of the King of Bern, for all men have heard him mentioned. And I know that he is superior to all men in valor and bravery, generosity and gentility, but he is grim toward his enemies. He will now not be at home. He has ridden to a feast in Rome with his kinsman King Erminrek." And Thetleif spoke, "Can you tell me a way that would be so short that I could come to meet Thidrek before he arrives in Rome?" And the man answered, "There is a way that is shorter, because Thidrek will scarcely travel the straightest way south to Rome. I was told that he would follow a creek to the east, to the sea at Fenidi, and that he would stay there several days before riding south. And when you come down to the Trent Valley, to Trent itself, then you will turn onto the way that leads to Bern. Ride east along the mountain pass until you see the mouth, and ask beforehand carefully about the way into Trent. And when you come east to the sea, every child will be able to tell you where Thidrek is. I cannot tell you any more." And Thetleif gave him a gold ring, and thus rewarded his words. They parted, and each went on his way. King Erminrek had prepared a great feast, and invited from far and wide the men of the empire. Kings and earls, dukes and counts, and barons, and all kinds of chieftains. He also invited Didrik of Bern and his men. And Thetleif knew that he would not find Didrik at home. He had now come to the place where the two roads divided. One road led to the Earl, his grandfather, and the other went south through the mountains. He stopped his horse at the crossroads, and thought which way he would ride, and spoke to himself. I am more curious about Didrik of Bern and his comrades than about my old grandfather, and I will be able to find him anyway after I find Didrik. He spurred on his horse and rode south into the valley, town after town, the way he had been told, and never spent a night where he had spent the last one. And he came then to a castle, and he found Didrik of Bern, and Vidga and Heimir. They had taken their lodging in the house of a man named Aki Amlungatrausti. He was the half-brother of Erminrek, and of King Thidrek of Bern. And this place was called Fritillaborg. Thetleif took his lodging in the same house as Thidrek and his men. And Thidrek asked his name and where he had come from. And he answered, "My name is Elminrek. My father is Zoti of the Vetland district in Denmark." And Thidrek asked, "Where are you going, that you have come such a long way?" And Thetleif answered, "I am riding until I find a worthy chieftain who will accept my service, to tend his horses or his weapons, or if he needs any other service of a man, even if it is not great. I have heard of a chieftain named Didrik of Bern. If I could find him, then I would offer him my service if he will accept it. I shall now ask you where you come from, what your name is, who your chieftain is, and where you plan to go. I would not wish you to blame me for my words, even if I ask unwisely, because I am a foreigner and have never before been so far from home as now, and I have never seen other men's customs." And Vidka answered, "That will not be held against you, that you ask such things. It has turned out well for you, good man, if you wish to find Thidrek, the son of the king of Bern, and to serve him, because here you can see Thidrek of Bern, and with him the man called Heimir. And there are still other doughty men with him, even though I mention these two first. And I suspect that Prince Thidrek will not think ill of you, if you wish to serve him, rather than other worthy men." And Thetleif stood up and went before Thidrek. "Hail, sir! I am happy that I do not have to seek you any longer, and that I have found you here. Now I wish to offer you and your men my service." And Thidrek said that he would accept his service, and said that he would ride with them to the feast, to take care of their horses and weapons. And Thetleif said that it would please him well. In the morning they rode their way, and Aki Amlungatrausti accompanied them. There were 20 men with them, and they arrived in Rome the day the feast began. Many of the empire's men were there, and the noblest king's hall was prepared for glorious chieftains. But the squires and vassals were in the hall where the horses were stabled, and Thetleif was there with them. If you want to hear more about extraordinary generosity, Valtari of Vaskarstein, and the death of a king, tune in again next time, back here, into Sagenheim. And thank you for listening.